Good morning everyone. This is Kailin Kamikawa. Lie like exhaling. This is a word that accurately expresses the state of the outer road that lie plainly without any confusion. It has been almost 10 years since the Great East Japan earthquake struck on March 11, 2011. Regarding the reaction of South Korea and Taiwan at that time, I mentioned earlier, this time, I would like to look back on the reaction of China. 2 months after the Great East Japan earthquake, China's ambassador to Japan, Cheng Yanghua, looks back on China's assistance to Japan. It was unprecedented in history, he said. Ambassador Cho looked back on China's assistance to Japan from 3 levels. First, at the summit level, on the afternoon of March 18, President Hu Jintao visited the Japanese embassy in condolences. This is the first time in the history of Sino-Japanese relations and unusual in the history of Chinese diplomacy. On April 12, Prime Minister Wen Jiabao expressed his sympathy to Prime Minister Naoto Kan by telephone. In addition, he supported the Japanese side's fight against the earthquake and the relief of the victims. He emphasized his intention to strengthen cooperation in rescue operations and reconstruction. Next, 15 Chinese rescue teams arrived in Japan on the afternoon of March 13, the earliest of the international rescue teams. The Chinese rescue team called for Japan as early as the 11th, and all the members were gathered on the 12th. Some of the members waiting for orders have just returned from the areas affected by the New Zealand earthquake. Some were selected from the Yunnan Yingjiang earthquake rescue team. The rescue team successfully completed the rescue mission on March 21 and returned to Japan. This was also the last withdrawal of the international rescue team. Finally, China provided Japan with a total of 30 million yuan of emergency grant humanitarian assistance, a record high. The Ministry of Commerce started assistance on March 12. In response to the request from the Japanese side, 2,000 towels, 900 tents, 200 emergency lamps, relief supplies such as were sent in 3 batches. Moreover, aid from China did not stop there, and provided 20,000 tons of fuel oil. On March 15, a Japanese minister said, "We cannot transport supplies to the disaster area due to a serious shortage of fuel oil," he called the Chinese side. 2 days later, the Chinese side ordered grant aid for fuel oil worth 180 million yuan. Looking back on the history of diplomacy, Korea and Mongolia are the only countries in which China has provided fuel oil free of charge. When it comes to assistance from local governments and private institutions in China, there is no shortage of enumeration. For example, Zhejiang Province donated 1 million yuan directly to its Friendship Prefecture, Shizuoka Prefecture. The Chinese Red Cross has donated 26 million yuan to the Japanese Red Cross. In addition, the large pump truck that worked at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant on March 31, it was provided free of charge by the SANY Heavy Industries Group in China. SANY not only provided a $1 million pump truck, 3 engineers were dispatched to the site to provide technical guidance. Is what they said. We would like to express our sincere gratitude for such warm assistance. However, on the internet, as in South Korea, there were still criticisms of Japan. On the Korean internet, please destroy Japan as soon as possible. The Great Japan Earthquake. The hand of God, God. I am self-employed. I would like a bigger earthquake tomorrow. It is regrettable that Japanese territory does not disappear from the map. Why do I feel smiling? Such Korean writing on the net, celebrating the big earthquake in a soccer match in response to the hanging banner, on the Chinese net. Brother, G.J. Looking at this banner makes me feel better. I wanted to say the same thing. We should pay tribute to this Korean people bonsai. Make a bigger banner. You should write in English or Chinese. Celebrate the Japanese dogs who died in the big earthquake. In response to such an opinion, Chinese people are not necessarily unified in anti-Japan. From the same Chinese. I'm wrong as a person. Asterisk, it would be a shame for my country to do this. Too crazy. Asterisk, that's why Jali Bangsa is hated by all over the world. Asterisk continues to update the lowest line as a person. Human waste. Kimchi is clogged in the brain. It's sad that anti-Japanese are so stupid. There were also opinions such as, And the topic that the Chinese in Japan gave as the homeland seen from the outside, I will inform you because it was extremely characteristic. The reaction of Chinese society to the Great East Japan earthquake, amazing the calmness of the Japanese people. After the earthquake, the most common news and internet in China was it was a voice admiring the actions of the Japanese people. In the face of an unprecedented earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan, impressed by the calmness of the Japanese people who maintain order, he spared no compliments for his respect. Unfortunately, immediately after the earthquake, by some Chinese who have anti-Japanese sentiment from the history of Japan and China, there were some comments that pleased the disaster in Japan, but immediately criticized by the vast majority of sensible internet users. After that, it became a big chorus praising the Japanese people. At that time, I often saw the word Tansei, a calm appearance. Here are some of the blogs of Chinese people living in Tokyo that were often quoted this time. The city of Tokyo is full of people who walk home. It looks like millions of people have come out to the streets all at once. Everyone line up voluntarily and move forward silently. No commotion was seen. I moved by car, but he did, with no one honking even in heavy traffic. Everything in front of me was like a huge silent movie scene. Hundreds of people evacuated to the square. During that time, no one smoked. Only the staff there are busy running around. We shared blankets, water, cookies, etc. to everyone. Men also go back to the building to pick up things for women. I used to pull the power and turn on the radio. A few hours after everyone left there was no trash on the ground. As soon as only payphones were available, the telephone companies voluntarily switched to free. In the cold weather, refugees returning home formed a long line in front of a payphone. Immediately after experiencing fear, there must have been a lot of things that everyone wanted to talk to family and friends that they finally got in touch with. When everyone cares about the others who follow and gives a short message, I quickly rounded up the call. These contents are widely introduced in China. The Chinese people are reacting as follows. The above behavior seems to be commonplace for Japanese people, in the fear that a Chinese who is usually selfish may lose such a life. It will be an unreasonable demand. At the same time that the Chinese were impressed by the actions of the Japanese people, we were also disappointed by our compassion. Japanese people always do what they should do silently. Chinese people must first set a big slogan before they can move. The Japanese are calm wolves, and the Chinese are roaming sheep. The unprecedented earthquake has highlighted the difference between the two national traits. In the unlikely event that the two countries fight again, it may be better not to think that we can beat the Japanese. A unique deep consciousness of tragedy derived from Japanese culture. A unique deep consciousness of tragedy derived from Japanese culture. It may seem like a radical comment, but through this earthquake, witnessing the difference in power between Japan and China, it is an undeniable fact that Chinese society felt a sense of crisis. While the Japanese who were affected by the earthquake are acting calmly, in China, the fear of radiation caused panic, which led to the phenomenon of salt buying. Chinese people often take pride in being an excellent people. This time around, the difference was clearly shown and I was depressed. Therefore, everyone is eager to investigate the cause. Before the catastrophe, the behavior of Japanese people, which can be said to be abnormal from the eyes of other people, is probably because of the high organizational capacity of Japanese society. Also, it is also possible for the people to act in harmony with the implicit rules. It can be said that it is the ability inherent in the nation. However, the national character of acting in an orderly manner without rushing is, rather than being born, it is the result of cross-generational accumulation of ethnic groups living in harsh nature. Awareness of such tragedy is rooted in ethnicity, such as deep consciousness hidden within. Furthermore, as an inevitable result of this consciousness evolving day by day and evolving to a level that does not make any sense, he has the mental and material readiness for emergencies. In the event of a sudden disaster or parting from life or death, the way Japanese people show their emotions is very different from other countries. At such times, other people often hit their breasts and step on the ground, or scream to heaven and hit the ground. I often see scenes where I wish for my own death because of my sadness. On the contrary, the Japanese are very calm. Rarely do you get surprised and lose your temper or cry out loud. There are many scenes where you can hold back your tears, and you can't help but think about it. There are many facial expressions that seem to be silently accepted. This does not mean that the Japanese are poor in emotions, it comes from the fact that too many tragic elements are settled in their emotions and culture. Japanese social culture has a habit of not like to express emotions. For example, Japanese actors play emotional expressions very modestly. Acting like Ken Takakura is typical. The words that went out were suppressed in the mouth, and the tears that were about to spill were swallowed without flowing. Push everything into your abdomen and collect it. But as a result, that modest expression conveys my feelings to the fullest. Japanese culture is bi-culture, in other words, it is passive, and therefore, it continues to this day as a culture that exists in an acclimatized manner without going against nature. On the other hand, Western culture is do culture, it includes active and self-opening aggression. It may be said that China these days is close to Europe and the United States, Japanese who believe in the government, Chinese who doubt. The Japanese people are calm because they have absolute trust in the government at the root. After the earthquake, the public believed in all the information released by the government and related organizations. We will also thoroughly adhere to the government's call. To the authorities' explanation that radioactivity does not harm the human body, there is no nerve to doubt from the beginning. Even when the authorities recommend that you refrain from going out and collect information indoors through TV etc. Many believed it and carried it out without any price. Go out to the streets and form a flock of 3 and 5 to collect behind-the-scenes information. There seemed to be no one who shed hoaxes. The depth of trust of the Japanese people in the government was clearly shown, and the Chinese officials he must have secretly sent an envy look to his Japanese peers. It is no exaggeration to say that the frequency of replacement of Japanese prime ministers is the highest in the world. It is also a sign of the electorate's dissatisfaction with the government. But both against the former LDP government and against the current democratic government, few people suspect that the public has been deceived, ridiculed, or despised by the government. That is because the Japanese government has consistently addressed the media and the people. It can be said that it is the result of treating with sincerity, equality and trustworthy attitude. Trust in others is not influenced by their abilities or the mistakes they make. It is born from a sincere and non-arrogant attitude. Japanese people are protected by a sound social welfare system, and even in the event of a disaster such as an earthquake or tsunami, I am relieved because I believe that the government will always compensate. Chinese people do not have such a sense of security. As you can see from the history, Chinese often rely on their families and relatives to evacuate and survive the disaster. Therefore, in the event of a disaster, the first reaction that the Chinese instinctively show is it is about protecting yourself and escaping the disaster. It would be unreasonable to ask the Chinese to have the same order as the Japanese. Topics such as were played. As far as I can see that this kind of analysis is possible, the Chinese are more like a race that can see things more objectively than the Koreans. From the Japanese point of view, it seems individualistic and disorganized. I don't think you should underestimate the ability to look at your own people from the outside and calmly criticize yourself. Also, the eyes that analyze Japan are accurate. It was a topic that made me realize what is the root of Japanese behavior. If Koreans stop lying and have a slight self-criticism like this, I think it will be a more decent country. Lie like exhaling, the Japanese, and people all over the world, should never forget this word. Don't be fooled by Korean lies. That's all.